right, good morning. I'm Tony Rocco, and again, today we'll be facilitating the board meeting. With that, I call the Residential and Manufactured Structures Board meeting of April 3rd, 2024 to order at 9:31. Katie, will you please call the roll for us?
Yes, sir. Gordon Anslow.
I'm here.
Thank you, Gordon. James Austin. Thought I saw him, but good for now. Sean Blair.
I'm here.
Thank you. Jason Sawyers.
Here.
Rich Fry.
Here.
Forrest Barnes is excused. Douglas Lathine.
Here.
And Matthew Lutter.
Here.
Thank you. Then we do have quorum, sir.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to 1C. Do any of the members have any changes to the agenda or the order of business today? All right, seeing none, I rule the agenda and order of business approved. Moving on to the draft minutes from the last meeting. Do any members have any changes to the draft meeting minutes of the last meeting? All right, seeing none, I rule that the draft minutes of January 10th, 2024 as final. The date of the next scheduled meeting is July 10th, 2024. All right, that moves us up to item 1F, the board vote for chair and vice chair. This board is still without a chair and vice chair. Ian, could you please explain this item and introduce it for the board?
Yes, thank you, Facilitator Rocco, Ian Paik, analyst with the division. We may now begin the process of electing a new chair and vice chair, or the board may choose to table these votes until the next board meeting. How would the board like to proceed?
I'm going to open this up to board members for input on this item.
Through the chair, Rich Fry. Are all of the positions filled now? I know that.
No, we have one vacant Republic member and one vacant structural engineer.
Okay, I would move that we table this to the next meeting.
Okay, Mr. Fry has moved that we table this item till the next meeting. Is there any further discussion on that from board members?
No.
Okay. We'll move that on to the next meeting. That brings us up to 1G. We have a board vote for one additional member on the Construction Industry Energy Board. I believe at the last meeting, Mr. Lutter was voted into that as representation for the Residential Manufactured Structures Board. Ian, could you please explain this item and introduce it for the board?
Thank you, Facilitator Rocco, Ian Paik, analyst with the division. We may now begin the process of voting for membership representation to the Construction Industry Energy Board, or the board may choose to table this until the next board meeting. Here we may accept nominations for membership to the CIEB if there are any from this board. How would the board like to proceed?
Great, thanks, Ian. I'll open that up to the board members. Any thoughts, nominations, discussion?
Through the chair, seeing that there's no conversation about it, I think we should table that to the next meeting as well.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Fry has identified that he wishes to table that. Do we have any other discussion from the board about that?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, Mr. Sawyers has indicated that we will table that item on to the next meeting. That brings us up to item 1H. And we have a formal farewell today to a longstanding board member who I've had the pleasure of working with for quite a long time, and that is Mr. John Chmelir. I have a little thing here to read, and then Mr. Chmelir, if you'd like to say some things after I'm done, that would be great. John's first four-year term on the Residential and Manufactured Structures Board, representing contractors specializing in building multifamily housing 3 stories or less above grade, began December 1st, 2011. That's pretty remarkable. So 13 years ago. John was welcomed at his first official board meeting January 4th, 2012. Then for John's second board meeting of April 4th, 2012, past board member Tanya Hallag nominated John for membership to the CIEB. John reapplied for his second 4-year term and was reconfirmed July 1st of 2020. Second 4-year term, and I don't know if that date was is correct here on this document, but he was reconfirmed, and then he served out his second term through June 30th, 2019, and has continued serving as long as was necessary to ensure continuity in his appointed seat. John, as your time on the board ends, we look forward to your next big challenge and hope that you will continue to always be a resource for knowledge and well-received critical feedback, as you so often have done during both meetings of the RMSB as well as the CIEB. On behalf of the board, the division staff, and many individuals in the community, we thank you for bringing your experience and expertise to Oregon by serving on this board. And we all wish to express our resounding appreciation to you, John, for your long-term dedication and commitment and your significant contributions and lasting support to the board. We all wish you well in your future endeavors. That's great. So John, would you like to say anything?
Sure. First of all, it surprised me when I was reminded that I started in 2011. It's been an honor and a pleasure and interesting to serve on the board, and important that you have these kinds of committees and boards throughout the state to bring not only a technical perspective, but maybe a geographical perspective to decision making. And so I can just thank everybody for their support and their contribution and turn it back to you. Thank you.
Great. Thanks so much, John. Okay. Moving on from 1H, that takes us up to 1I, and we have, again, with a farewell, we have a welcome. And we have a new board member here, Jason Sawyers. And I have a little thing here to say about Jason, and then I'll ask you to introduce yourself, sir. Okay. Jason was confirmed February 16th, 2024 to the RMSB in the position representing contractors specializing in building multifamily housing 3 stories or less above grade to a partial 4-year term. Jason will continue to serve until June 30th, 2027. So I'd like you to introduce yourself, Jason. Thanks for being here.
Okay, I'll keep it short and sweet. I've been in construction all of my life. I grew up with a concrete contractor father and took over the family business. And about 10 years ago, I took over a business from Randy Foltz Custom Homes, and we turned that into, still do custom homes, but started doing multifamily and apartment structures. And really, my time in the Home Builders Association kind of got me involved in the committees and the needs for rulemaking and the contributions of the contractor. And that's why I'm here.
Great. Great to have you here. Welcome. Okay. I think that takes us up to public comment. Ian, I know we had an individual signed up originally. Could you please address this item for the board?
Thank you, Facilitator Rocco. Ian Pick, analyst with the division. We received one request for general public comment. Robert Greenway, are you present, and would you like to identify yourself and present general public comment to the board? Hearing that they are not here, I would like to take another moment just in case there's anyone in the room or online that would like to provide general public comment to the board. Hearing none, that concludes general public comment. Thank you.
Great. Thanks so much, Ian. Moving right along here, that takes us up to 3A and a residential program update. So I'm going to turn that over to myself. to give the board a quick update on the residential structural program. So a couple of things have been going on. As everybody knows, the 23 Oregon Residential Specialty Code became mandatory statewide on April 1st, the beginning of this week. So that's the end of the 6-month grace period. So any new permit applications submitted beyond that date are going to obviously be in compliance with that 23 ORRC. We have put out training that is available on our webpage on the Residential Structures Program page for anybody to access. It really is catered to our certified local government partners, but it is available for folks in the design community, contractors, et cetera, to access. And if you have any questions about that, you're always welcome to reach out to our team. We do have a couple of Q&A sessions upcoming that we're working on scheduling. So usually there's a delicate balance there between, you know, when the code becomes mandatory and implemented and when folks really start using it to when we schedule those Q&As. So we want to be out about a month. So we're probably going to be looking at having those next month in May. Probably a couple of opportunities for both the structural fire life safety design side and then as well as the energy mechanical side of things. So look for notifications coming from the division about that in the near future. And then we have real big news that I'm excited to share is that our Oregon Design Criteria Hub is up live and running. This was a big effort between our team and our administration and Oregon State University. And we have basically used their Explorer mapping tool to create an Oregon Design Criteria Hub. So it does everything that any customer would do as they look through the ORRC and get to the climatic and geographic design criteria table. And so it does your site-specific ground snow load. It does adjustments between the modeled elevation and the actual site elevation. It calculates all of that for you. The team at OSU has just done a phenomenal job. And I'd also like to point out that Jeremy Williams from our team has just done a great job spending a lot of time working on it. And it's something that we're really excited about. Moving forward in the future, once the wildfire hazard map is finalized and implemented, that map will also be included there. So this design criteria hub, which has been notified and is available on its separate webpage. You're always welcome to reach out and email us if you're looking for it. You'll be able to access everything you need to know for designing anywhere in the state. So that includes your basic design wind speed, your seismic design category, your ground snow load, even your air freezing index, weathering potential, and then as well as in the future, your wildfire hazard designation as relative to the WUI. So we're really excited about that. It's a big deal. And with that, I'm done with the program update. So before we get an energy program update, do any board members have any questions for me or any comments? Okay, moving right along. I'd like to introduce Mr. Kelly Thomas from our team here with 3B and an energy program update. Hey, Kelly.
Hi, Facilitator Rocco, members of the board, Kelly Thomas with the Energy Policy Analyst for the division. Quickly, we'll do a mechanical program update because on March 26th, we held a rule making advisory committee for mechanical minor label program. So that was successful in May. We anticipate the rulemaking hearing with that being effective statewide. If you weren't aware, it was a pilot program that became a phased program, and now it'll be a statewide program for mechanical minor labels. The other update is just to let everybody know that we've got all the forms and compliance tools are updated on the energy page. You know, your checklist, trade-off calculators, things like that. We've also included energy incentive programs, which we'll talk about later with the REACH code. As Tony mentioned, we're going to be hosting a Q&A separate from the fire life safety on the 2023 ORRC. And we've also been working on a plan intake and inspection training. So that's progressing nicely, kind of a intake and inspection 101, maybe 201. And that's gonna be coming out. It's similar to our code change training. It'll be a video that'll be posted on our website, and we'll let everybody know when that comes out. So, are there any questions from the board on that update?
Great, thanks, Kelly. Okay, moving up next, we have a legislative update and Mr. Richard Donovan.
Try it again. Good morning, Administrator Rocco, members of the board. My name is Richard Donovan. I'm the Senior Policy Advisor and Legislative Coordinator for the division. The legislature last month concluded their short session. So in Oregon, we have long sessions, short sessions, even numbered years or short sessions, no more than 35 days. This one was 32 by my count. It concluded on the 7th of March. Within your packet, there's a write-up of the bills that we think are important to the division. There were a lot of policy discussions in a lot of arenas, and 3 of them were relevant to the division today. I'll talk briefly about 2 of them, and then I'm going to hand it over to our director, Alana, to talk about the third. I think that the 2 that I want to touch on quickly are House Bill 4016, which extended the operation of our wildfire grant program, which has been going on for a couple of years since the 2020 fires. This bill extended the work of that grant program through 2025. I think that it's fair to say that the legislature and policymakers continue to be concerned about wildfires and wildfires in the state generally. It's hard to know looking ahead what will happen, but at some point in time, we expect there will be some broad response to wildfire. Until that time, we're going to keep running this wildfire grant program that I think we found to be effective. And the other bill that I draw your attention to is Senate Bill 1521, which was a human services omnibus bill. In short sessions, the legislature has undertaken the practice of doing kind of big bills to kind of knock out a lot of smaller technical things in one spot. And that's the case of this bill. It mostly deals with policies regarding human services folks and folks that need accommodation or have some sort of disability in their day-to-day lives, the public services around them. One discrete provision there affects us, and it's about sprinklers. It extends an existing deadline for discussions about how to best manage sprinkler requirements in residential facilities for these folks. So we're going to keep talking about it for the next short period of time until 2026. If there are any questions about the legislature generally or those 2 bills, I'd be happy to answer them from board members. Otherwise, I'll get out of the way for Alana.
Any questions for Mr. Donovan here?
Thanks very much.
Thanks, Richard. Okay, up next, we have a continued of the legislative update and a HAPO update from our administrator, Alana Cox. Hi, Alana.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Alana Cox, administrator here at Building Codes. And first, I'll just reiterate my thanks to John Chmelir for his service on this board. Really appreciate it. And, specifically, John asked questions and kept us honest and called it out when things didn't make sense to him. And that's what we like to see from our board members. So, we're not afraid of that. That makes us better, improves our work. So I'd encourage you all to do the same and continue that from Mr. Chmelir. So thank you, John, for your service on the board. So I'm here to update you on House Bill 1537, which was the governor's housing bill. We've been calling it the HAPO bill. So HAPO stands for the Housing Accountability and Production Office. And the bill does a number of things, a lot of policy changes related to land use. But the thing that's most impactful to the Building Codes Division, and where we're going to really be looking for help from our boards, is in the creation of this new office. It's going to be a joint office between Building Codes Division and the Department of Land Conservation and Development. And the purpose of the office is to remove barriers to housing production, create a no wrong doors approach on customer service, resolve issues and disputes between contractors and local government to get things done faster, improve the development process, easy things that we're going to do tomorrow. No, big, hard things that we're excited to tackle. I think we're going to lean into what we do best at Building Codes, and that's really help people build safe buildings. And so Specifically, we're going to be creating that office, and hot off the presses, I can announce to you, we're doing a reorganization of our office to support that work. We've created a new housing and building safety section that's going to be the interface with the land use folks on HAPO work. And we have a new manager for that section, and you might know him. It's Tony Rocco. So we're very excited to have Tony stepping into that promotional opportunity and leading that work to make it faster and easier to build housing and address our affordable housing crisis in Oregon. Part of what the office is going to do is really kind of figure out who to talk to for developers when you have issues, and sometimes it's unclear what state agency or local government division or whatever is the challenge that is holding things up. This office is going to run those issues down. And it specifically in the bill calls out that board authority will be maintained. So everything we ask you to do today, that's going to continue to be your authority. You're going to be approving the codes the same. But I'm going to ask you for some additional help as board members, making this office really successful. And, you know, we don't want to throw a party and have nobody come. This is a big opportunity. This is a moment where everyone agrees we need to build more housing. And so as you have issues that you're hearing from, you know, colleagues or friends about challenges they're having in the development process, maybe they're a site specific, really specific challenge, maybe it's a broad challenge. We want to hear about those things. We can hear about it in the board process, or you can contact us separately so that we can start running those down and getting solutions. We're going to be doing a process improvement study that I think will be the first of its kind for Oregon. That's really the whole process: land use, building permitting, public works, engineering, you know, the whole thing. I think there have been a lot of kind of looks at specific pieces of that process at the local government level. And my impression is that some of the challenges that cost time are the handoffs. And so I'm excited to kind of have something that's the whole process where we can look for opportunities for improvement. So there's going to be a lot more to come. This is early days. This is a new big idea, but I wanted to make the board aware of it. And also, you know, we're going to be coming to you, asking you for some help and questions to identify those challenges, also to identify solutions, and also to implement some of the solutions that that might require rulemaking or those kinds of things. And I know we have Natalie, Janney up next from the Housing Production Advisory Council. This dovetails really well because a lot of the first work that HAPO is going to be doing is implementing some of those recommendations that came out of that advisory council for the governor. So maybe I'll just pause there and see if anyone has any questions or feedback about new office and this exciting bill.
Through the chair, Rich Fry. This sounds like a really good idea. It's interesting that just recently I was having a conversation with 4 or 5 other developers, and we all came to the same conclusion that one of the major stumbling blocks that we're having is the wetlands use, and that almost every piece of property that doesn't have something built on it is considered wetlands at this point. And I know that the EPA changed their rules about the rivers of the US or whatever it was, and Oregon immediately put out a statement saying, well, we're going to stay like we were. And I think that's something that we need to address, because there are many properties that really have very few wetland plants or that kind of stuff, but yet they're still considered wetlands. There are no wetland banks to mitigate. So that's a major stumbling block for most of the developers in the area at this time. So that's just something I'll throw out there.
Thank you. And that actually was a topic of discussion at the HPAC, and I believe they have a recommendation related to wetlands in the HPAC report. So I think that was a really good conversation. I learned a lot, and kind of in general, the HPAC process and this new office, you know, in the built environment is highly regulated, right? The development process is highly regulated. It's important that folks kind of stay within their lines of authority on the government side. But I think what I'm learning is we need to do a lot more checking of the mirrors on what's going on in some of the other lanes of authority. And this is one of those good examples where it's directly interrelated to the work that we do. So that's great.
Well, thank you.
And I'll give a plug too here while I have the mic for, I hope you will consider appointing a chair and a vice chair at your next meeting. It makes sense to me that you want to be as filled up as possible, and I get that. But one of the things I'd like to do is start convening chair and vice chair meetings of all of our advisory boards. And I don't want to do that without the Residential and Manufacturing Structures Board. So I hope you'll put that on your list to think about for your next board meeting so that we can start engaging in that way. Any other thoughts or feedback? Thank you.
Through the chair, this is Gordon Anslow. Are you still there, Alana?
Yes.
I just wanted to say I'm happy to see that this is being put into place. I've been involved in designing and building structures in Oregon for like 52 years. And I know for a long time, the model has kind of been with regard to everything you have to go through to get to the process where you can actually start building something, housing or whatever, is sort of a guilty until proven innocent process where you have to make, you know, it comes down on you to make sure that you're complying with everything related to land use and building codes and so forth. I think, and it's daunting and complicated for a lot of people, including it's difficult even for people with lots of experience in doing it. But I think I could see a kind of sort of a ombudsman role where people trying to develop something run into a roadblock, you know, going through that process, whether it's land use or building codes or whatever, and being able to call your fine organization and say, can you help me through this? That would be really, I think that would be of great material and value. Things have become so complicated that there's an awful lot of people who probably could do a great job of helping to create more housing, but it's highly technical, and they could use all the help they could get. And I think if everybody's in agreement that there needs to be more housing, I think you guys could play a really good role. So I'm happy to see this getting rolled out, and I wish you all the best.
Excellent. Thank you, Gordon. And that's what Tony's new job is going to be, in part, is being exactly that kind of navigator. And I think also kind of spreading the good word about a solution-oriented attitude when it comes to development. And that's a tough thing. I'm not going to pretend like we can change the whole culture of every, you know, person in the state or whatever, but that's certainly our culture at Building Codes, is we want to find a way to yes, not find a way to no, and focus on finding good solutions. So I'm hoping we can use this opportunity, and the fact that the governor has said this is the most important thing to me. I think that brings a lot of kind of clout to that approach, and it's going to help us be successful. Great. Anyone else? Thank you.
Thanks, Alana. Okay, so that moves us up to an update on the HPAC report and the council. And we have Natalie Janney with Multitech Engineering here remotely. Hi, Natalie.
Hello, good morning. Can you all hear me? Okay. Thanks for letting me join remotely. I have some germs and I decided I would keep them to myself. So good morning all. My name is Natalie Janney. I'm an engineer at Multitech Engineering here in Salem. I'm not sure how much everyone knows about what the housing production, what the HPAC was really for. So I'll just give a brief overview. So Governor put together a group of, I believe it was 27 individuals across the state from all different sectors. We had public, private, affordable, market rate. And our goal was to come up with a list of recommendations that could be implemented to help remove barriers to housing. So we originally started off splitting this task, which is a big task. We decided to split up into work groups. So we split up into 5 different work groups. Those work groups were availability of land development permitting, codes and design, workforce shortages, and finance. Each work group was given a work group chair. I was the work group chair for codes and design, and Eric Olson, who you may know, it was the chair for land permitting and development. Most of the recommendations that I think would pertain to this group came out of those two work groups. But just so you're aware, there was, I believe, 3 different wetland recommendations that came out as a part of the total 59 recommendations that the HPAC ratified as a part of its document. So there was one that specifically discussed mitigation, so addressing that concern of wetland banks, and another one that addressed the concern of jurisdiction, so making sure that Oregon's wetlands laws matched the federal laws. And then another one to allow for a 5-foot wetland buffer, whereas currently the state puts in an automatic 50-foot wetland buffer, and then you have to prove that you can kind of get it down to 5. So just wanted to, since that was specifically mentioned, point that out. I was lucky enough for codes and design, each work group was given state staff. I was lucky that I got state staff from VCD. So I had Alana and Tony as my staff. They were amazing. I can't say enough good things about working with Alana and Tony. And Tony, I'm very excited that you're going to be in that new role. You're going to do a great job. Of the recommendations, I kind of have my cheat sheet in front of me. The ones, I won't go over all of them because there's 59 and that would take forever. The ones that I believe would pertain to this board would be, we had one about expanding building codes division capacity for streamlining plan review and site inspections. So basically giving more money to BCD to allow for inspections and also plan review to help maybe in situations where local plan review is taking too long. You could opt in, which I guess that's already a program that exists. So it would be to make that program more robust. Sorry. There was one, I don't know that this would affect this board, but to update the existing regulations for condominium development. There was a lot of interest in making it easier to develop condos. One of the things that is a part of that recommendation is to come up with an inspection process that would kind of give more certainty that certain aspects are being done, certain building, you know, you would inspect the building envelope, you'd inspect the wrapping or whatever. I don't do that. I can't remember exactly, but basically putting these inspections in place that would help lower the litigation risk later on, which seems to be the big problem with condominiums, right? They have a longer statute of repose than any other type of housing currently. And so it would lower that statute of repose down to 6 years, which is what it is in Washington. And then these additional inspections would be not required, but available. So you could choose to have the inspection that would hopefully help protect you from litigation later on. There, I said it correctly. Expansion of ready-built plans. So making it so that there are certain types of housing plans that are pre-approved. All you would need to do is do your site-specific engineering and site plan. So it would help shorten the amount of time it would take to get a building permit. I believe the recommendation had 2 single-family homes, 2 duplexes. It had one more multifamily style building plan that it recommended. This is based off of City of Eugene currently has a program similar to this for ADUs. And so this would be kind of building off of that. One of the recommendations was to allow for a single stair for buildings up to 5 stories. So no longer requiring a second stair. And this is dovetails off of some already existing legislation. So I don't think this is anything new. Tony, feel free to interrupt me if I'm saying anything incorrectly. Another one was a middle housing recommendation, basically to change some of the existing model code to kind of match how middle housing is being developed. allow for multiple units to be off of a single lateral service, for example, or other creative ways to have them off of one water meter, to allow for that single housing land division to happen kind of after the development has happened without having to tear up the road and install a new sewer lateral, a new water meter. One of the recommendations that probably most impacts this board would be, there was a visitability and accessibility recommendation. This was aimed at promoting visitability without requiring it. So it would allow for, if you built visitability features into the home, you'd automatically get some trade-offs on certain other development requirements such as FAR, setbacks, lot coverage. It also had in it a requirement that all ground floor bathrooms would have backing for grab bars. That would be true. That would be a change to the building code and be required regardless of whether or not you were trying to achieve visitability. It was pointed out by the accessibility advocates that we had come to the HPAC meeting that not everyone who requires a grab bar is in a wheelchair. And so that having some accessibility features can be beneficial even for people who are not necessarily wheelchair bound. And so that this was a way to address that. There's a bunch of other like land use type ones in there. We had some things about TIAs and proportionate share and SDC payments back. There was a stormwater recommendation. We had one for general contractor utilities. So allowing the general contractor to build the utilities up to the point of the building envelope versus having it back at the street or the right-of-way line and requiring a plumber to come and make those connections. So that was another change that I could see maybe affecting this board. Happy to answer any questions. The general process, I guess I should have said this was, we invited subject matter experts to come to the meetings. We had quite a few. Alana had to organize having quite a few people come, and we would kind of just have a dialogue on these different subjects with the subject matter experts. And then we would draft these recommendations, vote on them, and each work group would then pass those recommendations up to the full HPAC, which would then have public hearings on them. And there was a 3-meeting process for every recommendation. So there was a lot of feedback that went into them. They weren't very popular. A lot of them weren't very popular. So with the general public, but I think overall, if we could implement a lot of these recommendations, we would find that housing would get easier to build. I mean, I don't think anyone's surprised. There's a lot of reasons why housing is really hard to build in the state of Oregon, and it's hard to find. There is no like one silver bullet, which I think is evident by the fact that there's 59 recommendations. So, and there could have been more probably, but at some point we just kind of ran out of time. So happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Natalie. That was a great overview. I'll open it up to the board members. Any questions for Natalie while we have her here?
I don't have a question, but I know from experience on the Board of the Home Builders, I want to thank her for the time she put in, because I know she was busy and put in a ton of hours when she could have been working, making money.
Yeah, but we won't talk about how many hours it was. It was a lot.
Thank you very much.
The Chair, Rich Fry, I echo that because I know how busy you guys are. So appreciate all your time.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for being here, Natalie. We really appreciate it and appreciate your time and the overview.
Thank you.
All right. Moving along, there are no appeals for this meeting and we have no unfinished business. That's taking us right up to new business. This is the review and recommend approval of the 2023 Oregon Residential Reach Code. Ian, could you please introduce this item for the board?
Thank you, Facilitator Rocco. Ian Pake, analyst with the division. With this agenda item, the division requests the board's review and recommendation on the 2023 Oregon Residential Reach Code. The 2023 Oregon Residential Reach Code is an optional set of standards designed to increase energy efficiency. All municipalities must accept the Reach Code, and it provides an additional efficiency compliance path for builders, consumers, contractors, and others. The intent for this year's Reach Code is to encourage greater use of the Reach Code throughout the state, removing barriers to advanced efficiency in construction in areas of the state that have not participated in above code construction. On January 30th of this year, the division held a rulemaking advisory committee meeting to hear comments and questions regarding the 2023 ORRC. All the comments and questions from the January meetings, as well as any additional written public comments, were taken into consideration when the division drafted the proposed 2023 ORRC. The division invites discussion from the board regarding the adoption of the 2023 ORRC and seeks their recommendation about its contents and timing. Mr. Thomas and Facilitator Rocco are available for any questions. This agenda item will require a motion, examples of which are included in your agenda packet. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Ian. So do we have any questions? We do have Kelly Thomas in the room, is a technical expert. If there's any questions on what's in your packet, any comments from the board or discussion?
Hi, this is Matt. I did have a question about the proposed reach code.
Sure, go ahead, Matt.
Yes, so I notice there are sections for the Energy Star path, the Zero Energy Ready path, and the VIA path. And in the VIA path, I notice there's quite a bit more language about documentation. And I just am, I guess my question is why is that there? It seems like the documentation is captured elsewhere in that language above and doesn't seem to be a requirement for Energy Star path or the Zero Energy Ready path. Is that documentation section needed? I guess I'm referring to N111.4.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Lutter. Kelly Thomas, Energy Policy Analyst. This was a proposal from Earth Advantage, and we brought most of their text over. The other two programs are pretty well established, the Energy Star and CERH, and the little more detail was provided really almost verbatim from what was provided by Earth Advantage. And so the documentation, we just spelled it out for more detail here.
Okay.
Where it's spelled out, when you go to Energy Star, you go to ZERH, all this is spelled out within those programs.
Thank you.
Any additional questions or discussion? We do have a member of the public who has raised their hand, not signed up for public comment. Is the board okay if we open the mic up to Mr. Heslam?
Yes, please.
Through the chair, Rich Friday, I'm fine with that.
Okay, Mr.
Mr.
Heslam.
Chair, this is Gordon, I'm okay.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. I just thought I would respond since it was mentioned that this proposal for the FIAS came from Earth Advantage, and Earth Advantage was certainly a part of it. It actually came through from the technical committee of the Zero Coalition, which is a much broader group of local governments, nonprofits, builders, architects, engineering firms from around the state. And back to Matt, to your question about why this one has all the details. When we submitted this, that was what our expectation was going to be for any of the alternate paths, was that it had that full list. So we were just trying to make it in alignment with what the other alternate pathways would be for certification. And since FIAS is wrapped around DOE Zero Energy Ready homes, and DOE Zero Energy Ready homes is wrapped around Energy Star, they all sort of build off of one another in sort of what their documentation requirements are. Each one is additive to the next. So, thanks for the opportunity to just describe where our logic came from in writing the proposal that we put together.
Thank you, Mr. Heslam. Any other questions, discussion from the board? If there's no further discussion, I would entertain a motion on this.
Yeah, this is Matt. I move to approve the proposed 2023 ORRC to go into effect July 1st, 2024, with the finding that the added cost, if any, is necessary to the health and safety of the occupants or the public, or necessary to conserve scarce resources.
Excellent. Thank you, Matt. There is a motion on the floor. Is there any discussion on that motion? Seeing none. Katie, could you please call a roll call vote?
Yes, sir. Gordon Anslow,
I approve.
John Blair,
I approve the motion.
Rich Fry,
Approved.
Douglas Lethine,
Approve.
Jason Sawyers,
Approve.
and Matthew Lutter.
Approved.
Motion was carried unanimously, sir.
Excellent. Thank you, Katie. Okay, that moves us on to announcements. Does the board have any announcements? Any announcements from members? You could share those at this time. All right, seeing none, that moves us down to adjournment. So with there being no further business, on April 3rd, 2024, the Residential Manufactured Structures Board meeting is adjourned at, I have 10:19. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, board members. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.